fate of the world is shifting in ways that will surprise and perhaps even shock you. Not so long ago, in many of the world's poorer countries, hunger was the headline health concern. Estimates put the number of malnourished at 700 million and obese, mainly in rich countries, at 100 million. How the tables have turned.
Thank you. Thank you. How is everyone in Auckland? We eat food every day, but do we know what is in the food we are eating? Over the last 2 decades, there has been a huge increase in obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular diseases. Past research said that saturated fats was to blame. However, new research suggests that it's all the refined carbohydrates such as fructose corn syrup and sugars added to our foods. Who is to blame? Is it saturated and trans fats? Fructose and the so-called low-fat diets? Today we will investigate who is the culprit. We have a special guest today, who will help us to understand the importance of fat in our diets, and will help answer controversial questions on saturated fat and fructose. Please welcome Dr. Chen, who is part of the World Nutrition Organization, based in London. Saturated fats have been blamed for years as being the leading causes for obesity and cardiovascular diseases. Let's find out. Welcome Dr. Chen.
Thank you Dr. Oz. As you know, there are 2 main types of fats: saturated fat, which usually include trans fat, which is classed as the bad fats. Saturated fats are in foods such as dairy, meat, and takeaway foods. And there is unsaturated fats, which include monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. These are classed as the good fats. They are found in plant-based oils, avocados, nuts and seeds, and salmon.
That's great. So, what is the daily recommended amount I should be having each day?
Total fat intake should be around 30 to 33% of total calories in a day. Saturated fat and trans fat should be no more than 12%. Monounsaturated fat 10 to 20%. And, finally, polyunsaturated fat with 6 to 10%.
That's great. How does fat function in our body? Why is fat important?
Fat is actually considered a vital nutrient in our diet. It helps to absorb fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E and K. Dietary fat carries these vitamins, and facilitates their absorption. Eating enough fat may actually help you manage your weight loss efforts, by providing a better sense of satiety than other lower fat foods. Fat is an important part of cell membranes, helping govern what gets in and out of cells. The body uses cholesterol as the starting point to make estrogen, testosterone, and vitamin D. The disadvantages of fats is that they are high in calories. If you eat too much, then you can be at risk of putting on unwanted weight. Also, it can increase HDL levels.
Fat certainly is very important in our bodies. So, what is the controversy?
In particular, saturated fat has had bad publicity. It is said that too much fat is the leading cause of obesity, diabetes and cardiovascular disease. However, there is 6 types of saturated fat, some better than others, namely butyric, lauric, myristic, palmitic, and stearic acids. However, people are getting fatter by day. Why?
This is a worldwide problem, and every country in the world should be concerned about.
And the serious, complex, often deadly health risks that can accompany obesity. Diabetes, cancer, heart disease.
Check it out.
But certain types of foods, what I prefer to call food products, they are as bad as tobacco, and alcohol.
So what has changed over the years for this to become a problem?
In 1953, Ansel Keys, an American scientist, published an epidemiological study comparing the saturated fat consumption and the prevalence of heart disease in 7 countries. Looking at this graph, we can clearly see that there seems to be a direct and obvious correlation between saturated fat consumption and the prevalence of heart disease. However, there are 2 major flaws though in the study. One is correlation is not causation, as epidemiological and observational studies cannot be used to properly demonstrate that In this new graph you can see that no correlation whatsoever can apparently be made between heart disease and saturated fat consumption.
From this point on, the AHA started recommending what they call the prudent diet. Low in total fat, especially saturated fat and cholesterol, and high in carbohydrates from grains, and in polyunsaturated seed oils. Saturated fat and cholesterol slowly started to gain a bad reputation over the following years, but it wasn't until several years later that the recommended fat intake was out in public. People started to cut out fat from their diets and increase their carb intake, for example pastas and breads. Also people started choosing low-fat food alternatives, which were much worse than having the fat in the food. Take a look at these clips.
Well, here's the secret about so-called diet food, and it's actually hilarious that it's called that, because most diet food contains what's known as aspartame, or similar name, or sucralose. And it's been found in numerous studies that actually diet soda products can actually lead to kidney damage, metabolic problems, and obesity. The studies found that kidney damage was experienced in those who drank diet soda, whereas those who drank regular soda, which by no means is healthy, did not experience.
In fact, McDonald's pays Weight Watchers to be an official partner. Truth is stranger than fiction. This fruit and maple oatmeal sold as a bowl full of wholesome. It's more sugar than a Snickers, more calories than even their hamburgers.
So is it the fructose in the foods that is causing obesity?
In a study by Princeton University on rats, found that fructose corn syrup caused abnormal increases in body fat and triglycerides. Similar trend to what is happening now, when rats are drinking high fructose corn syrup, at levels well below those in sod, they're becoming obese. Even when rats are fed a high-fat diet you don't see this.
From cereal to drinks, even soup, the main sweetener is cheap high-fructose corn syrup. It's everywhere. Unlike normal sugar, fructose goes straight to the liver, which turns it to fat. Blindness, cancer and strokes from
It seems that fructose is not a good ingredient for us, and that fats would be a better option.
It's better to consume fats than refined carbohydrates. Obviously one should keep away from trans fat, that is all the fried foods. However, saturated fats are good for you. Humans have eaten animal products for most of their existence on Earth and therefore, they have consumed saturated fats for most of that time. If saturated fats were of no value, or were harmful to you, why would breast milk produce saturated fats, which provide a naturally perfected source of nourishment for your baby?
Saturated fats are also the preferred fuel for your heart, and also used as a source of fuel during energy expenditure, are useful antiviral agents. Caprylic acid, effective as an anti-caries, anti-plaque and antifungal agents. Lauric acid, useful to actually lower cholesterol levels. Palmitic and stearic acids, modulators of genetic regulation and prevent cancer. Butyric acid. There are just so many benefits.
It's best to keep sugars down to a minimal level, and to watch out for any of that nasty syrup. Don't just eat fats, make sure to include fats with some healthy vegetables, and
some protein, alongside some exercise, and you will be doing just fine. I want to thank you Dr. Chin, for coming in and talking to us.